Yeah, so I think a lot of you have probably at least experienced some of our, whether it's been through, in our warnings or seeing warnings from other offices, especially in the Deep South, looking at impact-based warnings, or tornado warnings. The considerable or the catastrophic or slash emergency tornado warnings. That has been going on since about, at least in the eastern region, since about 2016. I think it's gone on a little bit more across central region, a little bit longer, since like 2014 or something like that. But regardless, 2016 for our area, we've issued a few considerable tornado warnings. A few of those were with Isaias, and then we had a couple in previous years as well. Fortunately, never any catastrophic tornado warnings or tornado emergencies. But so that's really just going along in sort of the next stage with IBW warnings from the tornado warnings. And then last year we did the flash flood warnings, which Eric will talk a little bit more about here shortly. And now we're to the severe thunderstorm IBW, telling you, as Jeff said, sort of telling you when this thunderstorm is going to be a little bit worse than, or definitely worse than, the garden variety severe, golf balls, 1-inch hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds, with a couple trees down. So let me just, get this. So, right. So yeah. So, so basically with the impact-based warnings, the idea is to really to get you more information, allowing, for you to get better information out to your, customers and everyone, and also to get a better public response out of that. So, if we issue a destructive severe thunderstorm warning, then right away, based on our warning, you should be able to see that all the very dangerous wording, you'll be able to actually get on the air right away and say, this is a very dangerous storm, 80 to 90-mile-an-hour winds, baseball-sized hail. And that in turn will be able to quickly get that public response going and get them to safe shelter. Because the fact is, let's face it, severe thunderstorm warning, especially the 60-mile-an-hour and penny to nickel-sized hail, people, I don't know how much they really take action on that. They should. I don't know how much they do, but the hope is that this will really beef up that action and really get people to take that necessary, necessary action. So, this already, are talking specifically about severe thunderstorm, tornado warnings, and again, Eric will be talking about flash flood warnings. The big change this year is again to the severe thunderstorm warning. So, again, our goal is to provide better details on impacts from severe convective weather. And this is based on science, observations, real-time reports, and the data. So we have, of course, our radar. We, of course, have observations, whether it be tornado, from spotters or chasers, or, large hail reports or damaging wind reports, whatever. All that goes into our warning decision-making. And what ends up happening is that based on all that information, we can then determine if we need to do a enhanced tag, whether it's a considerable tornado warning, considerable severe thunderstorm warning, or again, the worst case scenario, worst of the worst, the tornado emergency / catastrophic tornado damage, or destructive severe thunderstorm damage. So all of that goes into basically us making decision. The warning meteorologist makes a decision of what type of warning they need to do. And again, this is just an example. This is from Duluth, but this is, we've had, again, several considerable severe tornado warnings here in the last few years as well. But notice how, it starts talking about damaging tornado, particularly dangerous situation, life-threatening situation under the impacts. And then you have these tornado tags down here, that these IBW tags, what we call them, that we'll talk more about here in a moment. But again, this is sort of the basic outline, the basic format of all of our convective warnings now, from tornado, severe thunderstorm to flash flood. We all have the same general format with specific information. So in the IBW world, you know, before, I guess let's look back, you know, 5-10 years ago, when we issued a tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning, sometimes you had to sort of, you know, read through the statement and figure out what the heck is going on. You know, are we really expecting that there's going to be big hail? You know, do we, you know, what type of, it may not even have any impact information. It just may have, you know, we're expecting a tornado. You know, but the science and the data can allow us to do so much more now. So now we can have different IBW impact raises from the base IBW warning. This is sort of the warning that you'll see most of the time, just the base, you know, a 60-mile-an-hour severe thunderstorm, a weaker tornado, you know, not to minimize tornadoes, but, you know, these are the tornadoes that we are expecting are going to be weaker, you know, sort of more of those spin-up tornadoes. Then you get to the more significant severe weather, the more significant impacts. That's when we do the considerable tag, the considerable tornado warning, the considerable severe thunderstorm warning. That's when we're expecting the damage to be a little bit more, you know, maybe winds 70, 75 miles an hour, you know, a lot more trees down, you know, hail up to, you know, golf ball size or even greater, up to baseball size, you know, so 2.5 inch hail, you know, that can definitely cause some pretty significant issues, you know, especially to roofs and cars. I mean, think of that storm a couple of years ago. We went through Chester, you know, that all the roofs and that had to be replaced and everything. So, you know, so that's the considerable tag. And then, like I said, this is sort of the worst of the worst is the catastrophic. And that tag is for tornado warnings and for flash flood warnings, or destructive. It's the same sort of thing, but for a severe thunderstorm warning, instead of calling it catastrophic, we call it destructive. Again, the same thing. This is sort of the worst of the worst. This is something that you won't see every year here. In fact, hopefully you never see it here. You probably will we probably will, unfortunately, at some point. I think it'd be more likely to see a destructive severe thunderstorm warning versus a catastrophic tornado. But still, I think either one are certainly feasible in the Mid-Atlantic. So let's actually go into the meanings now. Let's actually get into specifically what these base, considerable, and catastrophic or destructive means. So what I'm going to, on each of these next slides, I'm going to have on the left-hand side is the severe thunderstorm. On the right-hand side is the tornado warning or tornado and what they mean. So for the base, again, this is sort of the, you know, where most of our severe thunderstorms and our tornado warnings will reside in the base warning. You know, this is the winds, you know, 58 to up to 70 miles per hour, 69 miles per hour, and or hail of quarter size, so 1 inch, up to ping pong size or 1.5 inch. And again, this is most of our severe thunderstorms. Think of all the pulsy stuff we see in the summer. That's almost always going to be base. You know, even during severe weather outbreaks, I think, you know, most of our warnings will still be base severe thunderstorm warnings. But, you know, at that point, if it's an outbreak, you could certainly throw in some considerable, you know, warnings in there from time to time. And as well as our tornado warning. I mean, think about the Good Friday outbreak from 2019. All of our tornado warnings that day were base tornado warnings, even though we had 15 tornadoes, or whatever it was. It was in the teens. You know, and almost all of those, except I think one that day was EF1 or less. So just because you have an outbreak of tornadoes doesn't mean that you're going to see any considerable tags. From tornadoes, a lot of this involves, you know, what the environment looks like and everything else, and what the circulation itself looks like. So again, almost 99%+ of our tornadoes are going to be, the base variety, the weaker EF0, EF1s, maybe even some, lower end EF2s. And again, this is just some examples of base, some trees down here and there. That's probably closer to more considerable, but, scattered trees down, even some a little bit damage to houses. I mean, getting some siding or some shingles or spouting off a house. I mean, that can be caused by 60, 65 mile an hour winds. Even the tornado, this looks a lot worse than it is, but trust me, these are just outhouses that got blown around. I mean, that's EF1 damage right there. So there was a house that I actually did the survey that was right off the picture here. There was no damage to it whatsoever. So there's some trees snapped back here. So I mean, that's solid, it's EF1, but again, that's base tornado warning type damage. So, and one other thing I wanted to mention too is going back to the base really quick. Notice that for the base tornado or the base severe thunderstorm warning, WIA is not activated. That's weather emergency alert on the cell phone activation. That's not activated. It still will be tone alerted on weather radio, but for tornado warnings, WIA is activated for the base. And the same is true with considerable severe thunderstorms and tornadoes. Considerable warnings are not WIA activated for severe thunderstorms, but they are activated for tornado warnings. Basically, any tornado warning is WIA activated, but only destructive warnings for severe thunderstorms are WIA activated. So the definition of considerable warning for the severe thunderstorm is, again, this is a little bit more robust. This is something that we probably see maybe several times a year, not that often, but 70 to 79 miles an hour and or hail of golf ball size up to baseball size. So I mean, that's getting into the damaging hail at that point. Again, you could think of a severe thunderstorm like a supercell, that is dropping large hail, sort of like the severe thunderstorm that went through Chester sort of like that severe thunderstorm a few years ago. Think of some stronger bow echoes that maybe not derecho, but stronger bow echoes, especially the ones that go through like city of Richmond or metro area, could give you that considerable impacts. Things like that. Meanwhile, the considerable tornado warning, this is when we're expecting a stronger tornado. Again, this is based on science. This is based on, which we'll get into shortly, based on science, based on our data, based on observations, that significant damage is being caused over a larger area with a stronger tornado, say EF2 or greater. It's probably going to be longer lived, and it's probably most likely something that is being observed already. So it's probably a tornado that is already on the ground. We probably already have a tornado warning out for it. Probably at this point, we're probably upgrading to a considerable warning. It's probably not a considerable tornado warning, probably isn't something we would issue too often out of the blue without, as like a first warning of the day, or, first warning of a thunderstorm. We would most likely start with a base and then work our way up. When I say PDS tornado warning, this is a particularly dangerous situation, that you'll actually see that wording in the in the tornado warning, particularly dangerous situation. And again, this is something to where I do think we would see these from time to time, maybe several events per year. Again, we issued one back in 2017. We issued another one several last year. Maybe with Florence, I think with the Florence tornadoes, we might have issued one. So again, every year or two, I mean, I think you're going to see these from time to time. And again, I'll show you the clear change in the warning in a moment. And again, this is the impacts from considerable Tornado is pretty obvious. This is just much more destructive. This is from I forget what this was from, but this is solid EF2 to EF3 damage. Severe thunderstorm impacts, 70 mile an hour, 70, 75 mile an hour winds can certainly cause outbuildings to be destroyed or heavily damaged like this. I mean, this is a barn. Some large hail, again, greater than golf ball, something similar to this that's going to cause these type of impacts. But again, severe thunderstorms will not be WIA activated. Tornado warnings considerable will be. Now, last but not least, and certainly this is something that we hope we'll never see both of them, but especially the tornado. But this is the destructive tag, or for severe thunderstorms, or catastrophic tag for the tornado warning. This is, again, the worst of the worst. Something that both of them we hope to never see. Unfortunately, we do see these severe thunderstorms this strong from time to time. But tornadoes, we do see them. I think, potentially the Petersburg in '93 could have been, potentially the Suffolk in 2008, most definitely Raleigh in 2011. In fact, Jeff can talk to this. They actually issued a tornado emergency. We didn't have the IBW tags, but we were allowed to say tornado emergencies. So I do know that Raleigh, the Raleigh office did issue a tornado emergency for the tornado went through there in April of 2011. But regardless, this is the worst of the worst. I think the big thing to take home is that WIA is activated for both severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings at this point. Obviously, again, this is winds greater than 80 miles an hour. Baseball size hail or greater. Look, these are the derechos of the 2012 derechos. These are the huge supercells that they aren't producing a tornado, which is probably something we're not going to see too often here. But the huge supercells that are dropping huge hail stones. I think again probably pretty rare here. But again, those are sort of the storms you can think about. The catastrophic tornado warning, on the other hand, is a violent tornado. Again, the definition is at least EF2, but this is something that you're going to want to know it's on the ground. We're going to want to know that it's causing significant damage, and life-altering damage, and it's something that we know is on the ground at that time. And again, this is something that it's a tornado emergency. This is the thing that means business. Obviously, we've never issued one yet. Hopefully, we never do. But I think we train for this though. So if something like this will happen, we will. This is something that we would issue. And again, just this. Derecho type, widespread damage here, just huge hail. This is out of South Dakota. This was actually damage from a derecho, not from a tornado. And then obviously this was actually the tornado emergency from Noonan, Georgia, last month on the 28th or 29th. I forget the exact day of March. But this was the damage from a picture from Noonan, Georgia. And one thing I wanted to mention is that this is a lot to unpack, and I certainly don't want you to look at everything in detail here. But this is actually this is what we'll train on here at the Weather Office, of how to look at tornado warnings and how to get an idea of if we need to issue a considerable tag, or hopefully not, but a tornado emergency. We look at the VROD, or the rotational velocity, which is basically just the outbounds minus the inbounds divided by 2, and so in this case you have 96 out minus 49 in, and when you subtract those that actually is obviously a plus, and then divided by 2, that gives you 73. Then we actually look, and there's been a lot of science, there's been a lot of research that's been done that tells us that once we hit 50 knots of VROT without a TDS, or 40 knots with a TDS, and TDS is tornado debris signature, that's when it's safe to say that the tornado is likely a stronger tornado, an EF2 or greater. And so, that's at that point we're comfortable with and that's what we train that's what I train my meteorologists to do here, is to, once you see these thresholds, to consider a considerable tornado warning. Also, there's been a lot of research that has been done on correlation coefficient and the tornadic debris signature and the height of that. Once you get heights of 8,000 to 10,000 feet or greater, combined with some of this stuff, you're probably really looking at an EF2 or greater. The Bertie tornado from Isaias had a TDS up to I think it was at least 10,000 feet. The Suffolk tornado last year that went over the swamp with Isaias, that had almost, I think, 65 knots of VROT, and it had a TDS that extended up to well above 10,000 feet. But I think the worst damage was over the swamp, fortunately for Suffolk. Suffolk got enough damage as it was, but the worst damage was over the swamp. And I suspect if we could really get into the swamp and look, and if it was more than just trees that it took out, it was probably a stronger tornado over the swamp. But we didn't have any indicators to actually justify it over a populated area for an EF2. So again, a lot of stuff to unpack here. I just wanted to show you that this is stuff we train on here in the office to determine. We're just not doing these things off the cuff. We have some guidance and some to consider for for our tornado warnings. So just to review here really quick, since there was a lot of stuff there, this is for the severe thunderstorm, sort of the tags and what the hail and the wind speeds are should be for the different tags. These are the tornado warnings, and basically, what we would do. So a base tornado warning could be radar indicated or observed, whether it be by radar through the TDS or an actual spotter report. A considerable, most of the time, we're going to be issuing these based on an observed, it's going to be observed, whether, again, by radar or visual. I could see that, if it was if it had a history, if say the supercell had a history and maybe it hadn't dropped anything recently, and and you tightened up the circulation, you started to see a VROT of 70, 75 knots. I could see it in that case, but I think 8 times out of 10 you're probably going to have an observed tag with a considerable.
Yeah, I think the Tappahannock tornado was a good example where we would have gone considerable without knowing it was touched down quite yet, because that was just one of those that was. I think we almost had 110 knots of just rotation as it passed east of the Richmond airport. And I think that probably would have been one where I think we would have had a considerable tag for sure, even though we didn't have a TDS at that point.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I just want to give an example, because that was really, of course, it ended up becoming an F3 once it got to Tappahannock. Right. But yeah, that was one where it was really spinning really, really fast before touchdown.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And again, this was right before impact-based tornado warnings in February 2016. That also had a TDS that extended to like 14. It was like 14,000 feet. It was incredible. Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right, Jeff. That would have been a candidate for a radar indicated considerable. Yeah, I agree. So, and then again, obviously our catastrophic tornado is that's something that is going to be always observed. I mean, these are, put it this way, our guidance from of issuing these is that if we issue a catastrophic tornado warning, there better be zero false alarm, which means that you better know it's causing the damage that you're indicating, because it is such an important warning that we don't want to be throwing those out there all the time. So now to sort of shift gears a little bit, I actually want to show you the warnings now, and I actually want to show you what to look for. Because look, I know that when you're on air, especially during a big event, you don't have time to be reading through the whole thing, but there are some clues, there are some key things that you can see right away that I think will be able to help you. So a lot of this stuff you already know, like area warned, where that is. This is the first part you're going to want to look at, is looking at the basis of the warning. This is where you'll see stuff like, confirmed large and extremely dangerous tornado. This is a particularly dangerous situation. This is actually the tornado warning that was issued for Suffolk back with East IAS, like at 3 in the morning. Yeah. So so this is another section. You can quickly see. You can sort of get an idea if we're talking a little bit more serious about a tornado. This part here, this is the sort of the key aspect of IBW, because you actually have your hazard, you have your source, and then you have your impact. And again, this is where the beefed up wording is possible here as well. You are in a life-threatening situation. Mobile homes will be destroyed, and we'll get into the nuances of the different wording here in a second. And then last but not least are the actual tags. And at worst comes to worst, look, if you're just if it's just so crazy busy, with warnings that you don't have a lot of time to read through this stuff, just go to the bottom and you'll be able to sort of get the basic information you need. Look for this tornado tag, whether or not it's observed or radar indicated, damage, the tornado damage threat, or severe thunderstorm, or severe thunderstorm damage threat, and the hail size, and also max wind gust as well, as you'll see in a second from the severe thunderstorm. So let's look at the different types of warnings, and I know I'm running pretty late, so I'll go through this sort of quickly, but it is important. This is the sort of the base tornado warning. Again, this is something that you'll see almost all the time from our office. Again, the tag is very simple. There's actually no tornado damage tag, right? It just says if a tornado is radar indicated and the hail size, right? It doesn't say base, tornado warning. Up here, it's sort of this generic wording as well. Impacts, flying debris will be dangerous. Mobile homes will be damaged or destroyed. Again, remember the considerable, right? That actually said mobile homes will be destroyed. It talks about damage to roofs and windows and vehicles. So again, a very important warning. All warnings are important, but this is the base. This is the base format of a tornado warning. So now let's get into the considerable. And again, this is the same warning from Suffolk, that from East AS that we brought up, that I talked about. And again, notice, we already talked about it, but the big thing is that anytime we do a considerable tag, this particularly dangerous situation is always going to be here. And you're also going to always see this confirmed large and dangerous tornado, especially if it's confirmed. I mean, that's obviously if it's observed, but it's confirmed large and dangerous tornado. You are in a life-threatening situation, and all this stuff. So again, it's a step up, a big step up from the base tornado warning. And again, I just sort of zoomed in for details here. So now, again, we haven't actually issued a catastrophic here, so I had to use a catastrophic warning from back in March from Peachtree, from Noonan. But this is, again, the worst of the worst. This is what a tornado emergency would look like, or a catastrophic tornado damage threat tag. Again, you see the tornado emergency up here. You'll see all this information here with large and destructive tornado. This is a tornado emergency. This is a particularly dangerous situation. You know, a lot of this is sort of similar to damage that is from a considerable tag, but again, it's just a step up. You know, you're actually talking about specific tornado emergency for a certain town or a certain area. You know, talking about complete destruction. So you know, this is the you know, again, the worst of the worst. And then notice your catastrophic tag here. So again, this gives you the idea now. So of when, you know, especially if it's a volatile day, you know, where we're expecting, you know, we get a moderate risk. I mean, it could happen anytime, but you know, let's say, you know, we're expecting, you know, tornadoes, and you know, we have a tornado watch, and you know, we're starting to see a lot of tornadoes. You know, this allows you to quickly go in and actually go into the warnings and quickly take a look to see if we're thinking things are a little bit more serious, right? You know, with a considerable tag, or you know, God forbid, a catastrophic tag, tornado emergency. So again, so this is the tornado side, and now this is, oops, what happened here? Oh, you know what? I messed up. I actually took a. Let me go through here really quick. There we go. So this is the severe format of the base. And again, what I've done here though is I've taken the left-hand side is the old format, or I should say the current format. And then this is going to be the new format, which I apologize I didn't put this in, but the new format is probably going to come in sometime this summer. Looks like sometime it was supposed to be in April, but it's been delayed. It looks like sometime in midsummer, like July or maybe even August. But this is when this format's going to come. But again, most of the really the big changes to the severe is actually to these tags. And so this is a perfect example here. You got the current format here with just the simple wind and the hail information. And now you go in and you can actually see the hail threat, the wind threat, the max hail size, and the max wind gust here. So you can quickly get that information. So now let's go to considerable. Again, same idea is that, you know, we have this, you know, the hail size down, just a hail and wind here, and now you actually have the damage threat, the hail threat, as well as the wind threat, and the max hail size and the max wind gust. So just a lot more information. And again, the nice thing about all these IBW tags is that they're very machine readable. So there are things, you know, if you know, vendors, you know, software should be able to decode these things, because it's all going to be stuff that is the same. This actually comes directly from our system, and you can actually see that all this information is in blue, which means we cannot edit it. So this stuff we can edit, you know, all this stuff in the black text, but this blue information, the blue text, we cannot even edit. So you know the formatting is going to stay correct. So again, software should be able to read that stuff. And then here is the severe format for destructive. And again, this is something, again, you're going to see right off the bat, you're going to see that this is one change, is that in the previous format, you know, if we were saying 80 mile an hour and baseball size hail, we would say this is a very dangerous storm. Well, now what's going to happen is that it's going to say this is a destructive storm for such and such area. So again, sort of like the tornado emergency, except now we're saying this is a destructive storm for, you know, Wakefield or something like that. The next thing you're going to see here too is the tags. Again, a lot of information in here to unpack. The big thing is, again, the destructive threat, the max hail size, the max wind gust. And now notice this tornado possible. Now, this is something that has been we've been able to do for a few years now. We have used it from time to time. And these don't always have to be put into destructive severe thunderstorms. We can put tornado possible on any severe thunderstorm warning. Let me get into this. So again, this is something to where it's not a hedge. I mean, it certainly isn't something a COIA type thing that we use. This is something to where the meteorologist, knows that the atmosphere could be favorable for tornadic activity with a severe thunderstorm. But the fact is at the time of the tornado or the severe thunderstorm warning, the meteorologist is not ready to issue a tornado warning. Maybe the circulation is still really broad. Maybe there's not much circulation at all, but with say a QLCS, but it's starting to bow out, and starting to get that look to it. There's a lot of things that could prompt us to issue these tornado possible tags. But again, a lot of times we'll put these tornado possible tags in severe thunderstorm warnings if the environment is really favorable for a tornado, but the radar just doesn't indicate one yet. I think that's probably when you would do it most of the time. Or like you said, you have a broad circulation that you think could tighten up, but it just hasn't yet. But the bottom line is that, again, these are not hedges by any stretches. This is just to give you more information, right? And so if you see this tag, then I think it's something to give to your viewers that, look, this thing could develop a tornado anytime. Be ready for a tornado warning, because we're still going to be issuing, obviously, tornado warnings if the storm worsens, if it gets a better circulation, or if we see something that prompts us to issue a tornado warning. Again, this is just sort of it's almost, heads up maybe isn't the right word, but it's probably the best thing I can give you right now. It's just something, more information. More information is better. It's another piece of the puzzle to give to the folks, to the public. So with that, I think that's all I have. So